Steve, thank you so much for joining Conversations with Cam. You're actually the first person I've done a little impromptu virtual intro to an episode, but I think that it's incredibly timely and important and really impactful, especially for this episode. So I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you having me.
Of course. I want to say, I know I said this to you, but I came to one of the premieres of All the Empty Rooms, and I mean, I left, as you can imagine, covered in tears, very emotional, and also feeling like every single person needs to see this film because, as you mentioned, I think we've just become very numb to the concept of school shootings. And we see a stat line of how many kids specifically have died, and then we just kind of move on and wait for the next one, and it's horrific. So I want to talk about first what led you to be interested in creating this film because it's very different than the typical stories that you cover.
Yeah, you talk about the country being numb. I guess I was led to this because I personally felt numb.
Hmm.
Kind of embarrassed to admit it now, but I mean, these school shootings would happen and I would forget about them pretty quickly. Not the first ones that made news for weeks at a time, but later as we covered more and more, they just took up less attention. And that just seemed wrong to me. And I started to think about why were we growing so numb? And I think because we weren't feeling the depth of the crisis. And I started racking my brain like, what could I possibly do to make people, feel again, to have empathy again? Because I think that's the first step to actually coming up with a solution before we get into some argument about guns or, more security officials, more guns, less guns, that whole thing. I just think we need to feel the depth of the problem. So that's why I launched this project.
And for those listening who aren't familiar with All the Empty Rooms, can you explain what went into this project about the length of time, where you were, what you were doing?
So what I did was, this is about 7 years ago, I started sending letters to every parent who lost a child in a school shooting, and I had a huge ask. I wanted to know if I could come in with photographer Lou Bope and take pictures of the bedrooms the kids left behind. Because there's really no better way to get to know a kid than through their room if
Hmm.
you can't talk to them. Because all over the room are all these, everything that's valuable to them, every place they've been, everything they hold dear. They're very sacred, intimate spaces. So I made the ask, and I did that for 7 years. Whenever there was a new school shooting, not right away, I didn't want to bother the families right away, but months after the tragedy, I would ask if I could come with Lou, and we could take pictures of the rooms. And 8 families in the end agreed because we shared a common purpose. Again, to restore the country's empathy, but also, anybody who's lost a child in this way or anyway, they want you to know who their kid was.
Hmm.
So the ones that said yes welcome that opportunity to share with the world who their child was.
What did you find you felt specifically? And then I want to get into the viewer, but meeting with these families, I've had the honor of meeting with a few families of survivors and families who have lost children. What were your takeaways from leaving those conversations? And then also further leaving the bedrooms? Because obviously it was impactful for me to watch through the lens of a movie, but I cannot fathom what it was like to actually be in that room. And I also just want to highlight the respect from a viewer's perspective that your entire team gave every single family, even just I think it was Lou or maybe it was everyone, but like the
No,
taking
it
off
was
the
Lou. Lou
shoes.
was most
Yeah,
respectful of all. He took off his shoes
that
every time
really
he
stood
entered one of
out
these
to
rooms. He
me.
refused to touch anything in the room.
Yeah.
Um, he took this as a solemn responsibility to document
Hmm.
these rooms, which is part of the reason I asked him to do it because I knew he would be like that.
Yeah.
Um, I do feel like through the film, you do get a good sense of what it is like to stand in these rooms through
Hmm.
his lens.
Agreed.
Um, But actually being there is a little different because, you're in that space and it's probably a little more overwhelming. And you definitely get the sense that that child was just there
Hmm.
because many of the rooms are left just as they were, stuff strewn on the floor, the bed's still unmade from when they went to school that day. In the bathroom, you see the toothpaste cap still off because the kid never bothered to close it. And just you look at all those little details, and it's easy for this other kid that you never met to be your kid. I think sometimes when you see on the news, and it's covered in such a shallow way, they show the picture of the
Yep.
victim and give the age and maybe one little tidbit, like horses or something. But when you're in the room, it kind of becomes your kid. When you hear about a school shooting, and you see it through the lens of the bedroom, you look around, there's all these things in the room that your kid has the exact same stuff.
Hmm.
So you realize this could be my child when you stand in the spaces. And again, I think that's where the film, which I did not make the film, it was
Hmm.
directed by Josh Seftel, but his work I think does a really good job of delivering the weight of the problem.
And with that, what is your hope and the team's hope for the rippling effect of this film? Because obviously you guys feel very passionately about this topic and you were driven to spend all of this time and effort into creating it. What are you hoping is the ripple effect of someone watching this?
I'm hoping that they're just moved I'm hoping that they're moved to do something, but at the same time, maybe not necessarily do the something that they thought they always wanted to do. I'm trying
Mhm.
to open minds, I guess, because
Yep.
everybody's in their corner on this issue, and we're just browbeating everybody with our opinions on how we should solve this. I'm trying to take people back to just feel the weight of the problem. So I'm not really getting into solutions. The filmmaker's not getting into solutions. This is meant as a reset. Let's put it that way. It's just a place to start over. And once we see the film, maybe we get together, open to some other ideas, but we're resolved to let's find something.
Yeah. I will say, as someone who saw the film, it really does bring to light the reality of these kids' names and ages and everything you said. I also just want to say, if you guys are ever considering other projects, I feel that one of the things that's not focused on enough that Ella Seaver and I discussed is the ripple effect of these shootings. Because, sure, obviously, we're seeing the names of the children or the people who were killed, and we know the statistic very clearly of how many people have died. But what I don't think is talked about enough is all of the survivors and their impact. And then not even the survivors, but the survivors' siblings who were at a different school, or the survivors' parents, or any of that. And I feel that there's something there that could spark potential change or just the realization of this is impacting already an astronomical number in deaths, but an even larger number in people who are having lifelong negative impacts from it.
And you do see, as you do see the
Yep.
ripple effects. We meet the siblings of some of the kids who are just rarely interviewed.
Hmm.
And as you know from the film, their silence when interviewed is deafening.
Deafening.
Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than that.
I
Just, you
unfortunately
know,
don't think there is. Yeah, there isn't
but
much to say.
at the same time, I mean, I don't want people to think that this some people say, I don't know if I could watch that. And
Mhm.
sometimes I get a little bit angry. Like you need to watch this. You need this. Everybody in America should be seeing this and then decide what you want to do with that feeling you have at the end of it. I understand that why some people might want to put their head in the sand over this. I do that on some issues too. I definitely get I get why that might be an impulse that some people have, but I want to just mention that the film is also, I watch it and I feel hopeful because I feel like it can bring us together and it can serve as a reset I've never met anybody who's watched the film and has regretted watching the film.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's tears, and yeah, you feel deeply, but at the same time, I think we can unite around it. That's my hope.
Yep, I actually sent the link to my group chat after seeing it and was like, everyone needs to watch this. And one of my friends said, I really don't think I can. And I was like, but I kind of think you have to,
Yeah,
because unfortunately, this is the country we live in. And
yeah,
if you watching that is gonna get you more involved in an organization or calling your reps or having more conversations around it, like you need to. I
yeah.
truly believe that. I wish personally, I won't speak for you, but I wish we could have every person in politics watch this film.
No, and we're going to screen for Congress, those that choose to
Yep.
show up. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing and the awareness that you're bringing to such a serious topic. And I know many of my listeners, especially the moms on here who fear this every single day, quite honestly, we really appreciate you bringing more light to this important topic.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. Thank you.